Welcome back, everyone, to 40k Rants with Ludus and Infinium. And today's rant is actually more of a hypothetical. What would happen to the Horus heresy as a whole, or the Imperium as a whole, if Horus would have died at Davin from being stabbed by Yugen Temba with the Anathema dagger, or sword, or whatever? So, there were a couple of changes that would be constant in. So, essentially, the way I did it was I gave it three possible consequences. One, Abaddon leads the Sons of Horus, and Luke Cedere takes his place. The second potential outcome is that the Mournival leads as a council, similar to the Iron Hands. And then the third option is the Mournival stays the same and pick another captain to lead. Now, that being said, of all three options, there are two constants that would essentially stay the same for me. One, due to the fact that Horus has died and not turned completely traitor, Magnus has no need to send a telepathic message to Terra ruining the Webway project. And due to that, he would almost certainly stay loyal. He would be probably corrupted eventually, but for this period, we're just going to say for what would have been the Horus Heresy, he would stay loyal, but there's potential for corruption later. And then I do also believe that Fulgrim and Angron are both beyond saving. Fulgrim due to the Lair Blade, Angron due to, well, being fucking Angron, honestly. And of course, Lorgar would also be those would be the three Primarchs that I would say almost no matter what, unless you change something serious, like for instance, if Fulgrim doesn't find the Lair Blade, and if Angron doesn't completely fail at bringing Nuceria to compliance, then they're going to turn to chaos. With Lorgar is pretty much, you would have to take Erebus and you would have to essentially put him on a different fucking planet for him not to fall to chaos. So realistically, at the point of Davin, those three would definitely fall to chaos. So, let's talk about the potential consequences. What I talked about earlier, with the first one being Abaddon leading and Cedere taking his place. So, Abaddon would take command of the 16th Legion and follow a similar path to Horus, though not being able to bring in as many Primarchs, requiring Lorgar to corrupt Angron, Fulgrim, and possibly Magnus. So, what I mean by this is that there was, because Magnus and Lorgar both had a craving almost for knowledge, that kind of drew them a little bit closer, similar to Magnus and Perturabo. So I do think he could eventually corrupt Magnus. I don't think short term he's going to be able to. And because of this, I don't think the fall of Prospero would happen either. With Horus Lupercal dead, little Horus Axeman will potentially remain loyal due to the fact that towards the time of Istvan's 3 and 5, even he had problems justifying his actions, especially after, spoilers, killing Tarek Torgadon. Little Horus had some serious issues justifying what had happened during the early parts of the Horus Heresy. I think with Horus gone, even though it's Abaddon, I still think he would have issues justifying what happens. So I think that could potentially keep him loyal. So essentially, as far as pertaining to what would have been the Horus Heresy, if there is still a split, I think that the split depending on how you look at it, will either be greater or not as great. I think that there will be many more loyalists than there were during the canonical Horus heresy. And potentially 3 of the 4 Mournival members staying loyal, with the only one turning traitor I could see being Luke Ceterae and Abaddon. You know, they both held a lot of respect, but they were also known to be almost warmongers. So, with that in mind, I could see a lot of the Legion favoring people like Tarek Torgat, Garviel Loken, and Horus Aximand, because they were the calmer ones of the bunch, and they tended to think before they act, whereas every problem was a nail and every solution a hammer to Abaddon and Luke Ceterae. And that's completely oversimplifying it, but that's essentially how they looked at it. Every solution is a nail, or every problem is a nail, every solution a hammer, and I am the hammer. So, but the second potential outcome is that the Mournival leads as a group. This is similar to what the Iron Hands did. I think there would be a less chance of the Legion falling to chaos, especially the distrust mounting between Tarek Torgadon and Garviel Loken and Erebus and the Word Bearers. I think that with Horus dead, I think they would have a little bit more pull with Horus Aximand and get him to see it. So if they ruled like a true council, I believe the 3 of them could, if they couldn't convince Abaddon, which I actually do believe they could, if they couldn't, they would still be able to essentially outvote him. And be like, no, we're not helping with their plan. We're going to do what Horus would have wanted us to, and at that point, it would have been what a loyal Horus wanted them to do. So, and then the last one is a lot more fluid. The Mournival will stay the same and pick a different captain to lead. Now, in this, I picked 2 specifically for 2 different reasons. I picked Luke Ceterae because he is essentially Abaddon Jr., and he's Abaddon Light, let's put it that way. Actually, I could see Malachurst leading too, the equerry to Horus, Lupercal. So, with Malachurst and Luke Ceterae being the leaders of the 16th Legion, I could see them actually falling to chaos. Now, for the other one, and this one I don't think would happen had it come to it, but this is at least an interesting rabbit hole to go down. Yakton Cruz, for being one of the longest-lived Luna Wolves and Sons of Horus, giving him the honor of leading the Legion. And this goes along the lines of them saying, like, hey, we've been on a really bad downward spiral, maybe we need to get back to our roots. The closest thing to our roots is Yakton Cruz. He can lead us back to what we need to be. I don't realistically think that would happen. Interesting rabbit hole to go down. But here's where I think it gets more fascinating. I think in the case of Ceterae and Malachurst, or even Sargast, the leader of the Warrior Lodge, I think there's a really high chance of the Legion falling again. However, in the case of Cruz, I don't see that. I see it remaining a loyal Legion. I really do. And it's something I have next to nothing to base that on, but with what's written about Cruz from the first 3 books, Horus Rising, what is the second one? I'm trying to look it up now. False Gods and Galaxy in Flames, to even the 4th book, Flight of the Eisenstein, there's a lot that shows him to be a really honorable Astartes and captain, similar to Garviel Loken. So I could honestly see him being able to keep the majority of the Legion loyal. Now, let's talk about the big Primarch-sized elephant in the room. who would replace Horus as War Master. And after a lot of thinking, I narrowed it down to 4 candidates. And interestingly enough, or at least I found this fascinating, I narrowed it down to 4 candidates, and all 4 of them were loyalists. The Lion, Sanguinius, Rogel Dorn, and Gilliman. So, I'm going to say why I think each one was a specific choice of mine, then I'm going to go over who I actually think it would be. The Lion was actually a really good second to Horus. The difference between him and Horus is he had more bad relationships with his brothers than Horus did, but he was very strategic like Horus, and where Horus was tactical, the Lion was more, for lack of a better word, feral. Sanguinius had the most, quote-unquote, good relationships with his brothers and was a great all-around commander. But, unfortunately, he did have issues when the first cases of the Red Thirst arose in his... arise? I don't know. In his legion. You know, he did everything he could to keep it secret, and that was something that canonically, if I remember right, Horus used against him. Dorn. He is very stern and adamant follower to the Emperor. He is I could honestly say, the most unlikely to ever stray from the Emperor. However, he is kind of slow-moving, and he is the turtle of the Loyalists. He focuses on rebuilding more so than conquest, and I get it that fortifications and siege warfare is the Imperial Fist thing, but still, it does get pointed out that does play a part in why Dorn wasn't picked originally. And then there's Gilliman. And as much as I like cracking jokes on Gilliman, you know, he was a really good all-around Primarch. He was a jack-of-all-trades Primarch. He could lead armies, be a statesman, and he could branch a few of the thorny bridges. I don't think he was as good of a statesman as, say, or at least as good of a diplomat as Sanguinius, per se. But he could manage a lot. So, as to my thoughts on who it would be, I really split it down 2 and 2. The 2 I didn't think it would be were Dorn and the Lion. I think because Dorn was already the Praetorian, I think the Emperor would have picked someone else to be War Master. And the Lion tended to not get along with his brothers. He tended to be a little bit aggressive with them. So I think that would have been a big factor, which really narrows it down to Sanguinius or Gilliman. And between the 2, I really do think this would have gone to Sanguinius. Sanguinius had the most good relations. He was a better diplomat, whereas I guess you could say Gilliman was probably a better statesman. But even with the Red Thirst going on, the Blood Angels eventually learned how to handle it, and I believe having Sanguinius alive, they would have been able to handle it better. So I could see him being the next War Master. But as far as overall consequences of the Horus Heresy, I think there'd be so few Primarchs that they would either just leave. They would leave the Imperium, go into the Eye of Terror, and just do essentially guerrilla warfare. Kind of. Or if they got found out, like specifically like Lorgar, I believe that it would be the 2nd, 11th, and 17th Legions? Yeah. 17th Legions would be the Lost Legions. I believe Lorgar would absolutely be fucking killed, and his legion, who could be saved, would be split up among probably the Ultramarines. Because that's honestly what I could see happening. That's honestly what I assume has happened. Because there are plenty of Ultramarine successors that shouldn't be Ultramarines. Me and Asmogan talked about this in a podcast. A good example is the Mortifactors. I could easily see them being descendant from the Death Guard. But with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed this rant. Hopefully next week I will have the first lore video in a while, which will be Jagatai Khan. Hopefully. But, yeah. I enjoyed the hell out of talking about this one. This was a topic that I was really interested in, and I hope you are too. So, I hope you enjoyed. If you want to check out any more playlists, subscribe. Check out all my playlists if you especially like this one. Leave a like, leave a comment. Let me know what you liked about it. Let me know what your thoughts are on the subject. And if you want to have a say in what lore videos or what 40k rants you would like to see me do, join the Discord community. Leave a suggestion there. Or if you want to have a say in what video games I choose coming up, especially for the community pick, I always put the polls up when I either get close to finishing the game or when I actually finish the game. So leave me I put the poll up in the Discord, and that'll be the only way you get to vote on the community pick. But with all that being said, I hope you all have a very wonderful day.